I want to call our meeting of the Barnstable County Commissioners to order. Today is December 17th, 2025, and the time is 10:05. We have a quorum. And before we go through our agenda here, I'm just going to read this preliminary notice. And it reads as follows. This meeting of the Barnstable County Commissioners will be conducted via both in-person and remote meetings in accordance with applicable law. Persons wishing to participate may do so either in person or by accessing the meeting via Microsoft Teams. For instructions on how to join the meeting remotely, please refer to the meeting agenda that is found on the Barnstable County website under the Meeting Center menu. Please use the Teams, quote, raise hand feature to be acknowledged when the public participation is required by law or it's allowed by the chair. So our meeting, we are now in business, and I'm going to ask everyone to join the board in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'd like to ask everyone to join us in a brief moment of silence to reflect on the bravery and the sacrifices of all those who have put their lives on the line in service to our country. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the public comment section. And I'm looking out in the audience, and I see a hand raised for public comment. Please stand and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Eric Schwab. I'm from Barnstable Hyannis. I'm the administrator for Barnstable Unofficial, which has now 100,000 readers. And we typically talk about zoning issues, and the subject of 40B has come up most recently, particularly actions of the Harwich Select Board, which voted unanimously last week to request a discretionary referral to the Cape Cod Commission. There are concerns that the Pine Oaks Village 4 is too large to be sustainable. There are concerns about the wastewater, and as we were chatting, concerns about the traffic. It's a little too much. It's the fourth in a series of buildings, and this last building is 5 times the previous. So they've gone from 40, 50 units to 240. And that's a quantum leap that is just not sustainable in the views of the community. I'll wait for Sheila.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem at all.
Sure.
Very festive.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. Just to reiterate, my name is Eric Schwab.
How do you do?
How do you do? Thank you for your comments the other day in support of Hyannis. That was very brave. We appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I didn't let go of it there, but I wasn't going to battle it out on Facebook.
I totally understand.
Right.
So I'm here today speaking on behalf of Harwich. The select board recently voted unanimously to refer POV 4, Pine Oaks Village 4, back to the Cape Cod Commission. They've requested a discretionary referral. Commissioner Forrest mentioned that there are potentially legal constraints and that there might be some confusion. And so what we were hoping to accomplish today was just have you talk about what your concerns are and what you feel the commission can do to assist the residents of Harwich in having the Cape Cod Commission take a second look at that proposal and perhaps offer some guidance, more than just an advisory letter, more than just as a bystander, but as we ask that you exercise your full authority over projects of regional impact. I mean, you were chartered, while the Cape Cod Commission was chartered, specifically to handle regional impacts. Mm-hmm. And we feel this project's just too much. And it's right in the center of the Cape, and it's going to impact an enormous area. If anything is a regional impact, that project has a regional impact. And we would appreciate greatly if you could just explain your position. And most importantly, we would like to ask you to use your position to influence the Cape Cod Commission and ask them to take it up.
So as you know, we can't really respond to public comment, but I was later in open business or to put on the agenda for future business. Now, I won't be chair, for Commissioner Forrest will be, but I know that we have actually looked at this property and we understand your concerns. So we will, I'm gonna suggest this for a future topic. Doesn't mean that we're gonna wait until then to actually have conversations and that sort of thing, but with the appropriate party, or we will individually. But we do hear you, and I think that, it's just not that one project. There's a lot of these happening all of a sudden at once, and it is only so big, and I've heard it expressed in many places how much is enough. So that's about us. I probably already overwent what I should say.
I'm both a member of the Board of Commissioners and also
Sit
sit on the Cape Cod Commission as our representative. We were very aware of your concerns. We've gotten your emails and understand it, and I have looked into it, as I think we have already. So I'm not going to go over what we said already, restraints. Personally, I'm not a big fan of 40B. I mean, I think its time has come and gone, but we will work when in responding to citizens' requests. We work within whatever authority we have.
Right. We'll do what we can.
Well, we certainly appreciate your concern and like to suggest perhaps a traveling roadshow.
Yes.
You can start in Harwich.
Yes, and we will be hearing, so we'll want to hear those voices, and we appreciate them.
Great. We'll be sure to fill the room for you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think you get a sense, Eric, that the board's interested in taking
Yeah, we are.
topic. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You may just want to check that there
Is any
may
other
be no
public
public
comment?
comment.
Anybody else? Raise your hand.
I guess not.
Okay.
You might put that word out
Nothing.
now, though.
Okay.
Okay, well, that was good. That was public comments. So now we're going to go on to my apologies for being a few minutes late. I got stuck. Approval of the meeting minutes, please.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 3rd, 2025.
And I will second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to general business, we are having a update on from our public health department. Come right up and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Escher Cattle. I'm the new extension entomologist at Cape Cod Cooperative Extension.
It's very nice to meet you.
Nice
We
to
heard
meet
that you were on board, so
Thank
glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and give Leah Hamner a chance to say hello as well.
Good morning, Leah Hamner, contract epidemiologist with the Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment.
Nice to meet you, Leah. Thank you for being here.
Gotta get that man.
Yeah.
We have a hand raised from,
Oh, does someone have their hand raised? And SB, we might have to revert back to public comment for a minute. Is there somebody we missed? SB, could you identify yourself and unmute?
Yes, thank you. Stephen Buckley from Chatham. I couldn't quite locate the raise hand button. I appreciate you taking the time to go back. I'll only be a few seconds, I hope. I want, along the lines of the same as the previous public commenter, I want to request that the board use its authority to request that the commission do a ERI review of the Canal Bridges project, which I think would, yes, trump almost any project in the next 100 years. And without getting into material part of it, I just wanted to say that the executive director has indicated to, I believe, the Cape Cod commissioners that the The DRI is not required and or has been overridden or to the effect that they're not going to do a DRI for the canal bridges because the state government says they don't have to or are not allowed to. It's not quite clear. So anyway, I would like that to be an agenda item because I think the public should understand why a regional perspective is not going to be included along with the federal and state impact statements. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we can move on.
Yes.
Thank you for indulging our person from Mr. Buckley.
Not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and get the presentation set up.
So today we are going to be discussing the Lone Star tick and their cousins.
Yes.
The alpha gal
The
syndrome.
alpha
You'll
gal.
explain that to us.
Yes.
Right.
Sounds pretty ominous.
Sounds
Yeah.
like something that's over in Martha's Vineyard. Okay.
Well, we will talk about it.
Okay.
Morning, Commissioners. Like I said, I'm Escher Cattle, and I'm an entomologist working at Cape Cod Cooperative Extension. I'm here with Leah Hamner in Public Health for a collaboration between our two offices. We want to convey some important information about Lone Star tick and alpha-gal syndrome to the Commissioners, but also to the residents of Barnstable County. For my side of the presentation, we'll talk about what happens before the bite, mainly information about the Lone Star tick itself. I'm going to assume a certain amount of familiarity with ticks coming in. Different species of ticks can spread different diseases, and out here on the Cape and Islands, they're a long-standing and year-round problem. I'm sure you know about deer ticks and dog ticks by now, but I'd like to talk to you today about a third species of tick that showed up a little more recently, which is the Lone Star tick. The Lone Star tick, or turkey tick, is a round orange-brown tick named for the distinct white spot on the back of the adult female you can see in the middle here. While it's been found in Texas, its range pretty much spans the eastern side of the United States, from Florida to Maine and out west to Nebraska. Unlike other ticks that we know on the Cape, Lone Star tick is a more generalist blood feeder. It can feed on a very wide range of animals, from white-tailed deer to wild turkeys, to domestic animals like cows and dogs, down to smaller mammals like opossums and rabbits, and of course, people. As I said, Lone Star tick's range spans most of the eastern United States, but has expanded to the north in the last 15 or more years due to host and habitat availability. My predecessor, Larry Dapsis, first received and confirmed reports of Lone Star tick in Barnstable County in 2012, finding already well-established populations at Sandy Neck Beach Park. Now in 2025, according to tick expert Dr. Stephen Rich from UMass Amherst, Lone Star tick can be found all along the Cape, all the way out to P-Town. This coming year, I'm hoping through sampling we can get a better picture of Lone Star tick population densities across Barnstable County. Lone Star ticks live for a couple of years in good conditions, but they're not out and active right now. They survive the winter by going into diapause, which slows down their metabolisms and allows them to go without feeding or moving around as much. However, as you can see here on this graphic, the Martha's Vineyard Tick Program is put together. Once the weather warms up, coincidentally, as we start seeing tourists coming in, Lone Star ticks become active again and peak in the summer months. At this point, I'd like to talk a bit about Lone Star ticks' behavior. Compared to deer and dog ticks, Lone Star ticks are super ticks. They're strong, they're fast, and they're aggressive. Lone Star ticks are more robust and resistant to the kinds of conditions that kill other ticks. As opposed to being stuck in shady forest edges and tall grasses, Lone Star ticks can survive in drier and hotter conditions like maintained lawns and gardens. Larger stages of Lone Star tick can follow you around once they sense you. They're able to chase hosts up to 20 feet. And unlike our other endemic blood-feeding ticks, they can be dangerous to humans straight from the earliest larval stage. So I'm going to show you a quick video to illustrate what we call a tick bomb. And while it's playing, I also have, oh no, I forgot my laminated sheet. Martha's Vineyard Tick Project gave me a laminated sheet of a tick bomb to show you, but I sadly left it in my office. So this is hundreds of Lone Star tick in the larval stage, only about the size of a poppy seed, waiting on a blade of tall grass for something to brush by them. It's going to take a minute, but it's important that we watch the whole video so that you can get a good look. In the beginning, you could see all their little front legs. It was called questing behavior. They were waiting for something to grab onto, and you can see how they immediately dropped off that grass onto the metal clipboard and started spreading very quickly. That's hundreds of tiny ticks that could result in hundreds of bites that are more painful and itchy and last longer than those by deer and dog ticks. Nasty, nasty picture.
Mhm.
So I know I've given you a bunch of bad news just now, and you're probably a little worried or scared. But before I hand things over to Leah, I'd like to tell you some good news. The same personal protection strategies that you can use against bites from other ticks will also work to protect you from Lone Star ticks. You can still enjoy outdoor activities like gardening and hiking if you follow a few simple steps before you go and after you come in from spending time outdoors. You can dress tick smart with light colored long clothing and tuck your clothes in so that it's difficult for ticks to get under them onto your skin. Leggings or joggers over socks also work for the more fashion conscious. You want kind of a tight elastic band over your ankle so that ticks can't get in. They're known to stop at that kind of restriction. You can wear skin safe repellent like OFF or picaridin over any skin that's left exposed. But the best recommendation is to also treat your outdoor clothes and shoes with permethrin, a human safe compound known to stop and kill ticks that come into contact with it. When you're ready to come in, you can take off any hitchhikers you see on your clothes with tape or a lint roller and put your clothes in the wash as soon as you get inside and let them dry on high heat. Taking a shower in the first 2 hours after you come in can also help you find and remove any ticks remaining on the crevices of your skin. You can check out our resources for more ticks on avoiding and preventing tick bites, but for now, I want to hand it over to Leah to talk about what comes after the bite.
Thank you very much, Escher, and thank you, commissioners, for giving us some time this morning to talk about both Lone Star tick and the human health risks that they pose. This picture in the slide is an illustration of what the Lone Star larval tick bomb looks like when they actually bite. A lot of folks don't actually see the ticks biting them. They are so incredibly small, and they're also a lighter color brown, so it's actually quite hard to see them. So this is why personal protection is so essential to prevent the bite before it even happens, prevent the ticks from getting to your skin before it even happens, because they are so small. These bites are very itchy. They last for weeks. And so if they cause nothing else, they're going to cause misery just by being itchy bites. Next slide, please.
That person looks like they're going to be very sick.
So alpha-gal syndrome is something that you might have seen in the news a lot lately. It's getting increasing coverage. Alpha-gal refers to a molecule. So it is not just a girl boss syndrome, I like to joke. It is actually referring to the molecule alpha or galactose alpha-1,3 galactose. If you could, Escher, click next. It's a carbohydrate molecule, and it is a molecule that's actually present in all mammals except for humans and old world primates like orangutans and chimpanzees. So it's in mammals that we eat, mammals that we pet, mammals that are in our medicine, and we'll talk about where these different exposures can come from. Next, please. And the syndrome part of this refers to the fact that it is an allergy, not an infection. There's no infectious disease process happening, which is why the babies, the larvae, can cause alpha-gal syndrome. And the syndrome itself has a wide range of symptoms that appear 2 to 8 hours later, which I will explain next. So the classic symptoms of alpha-gal syndromes, first of all, usually they show up 2 to 8 hours. The timing is very important with alpha-gal syndrome and actually very problematic with alpha-gal syndrome. So after eating and after drinking, 2 to 8 hours later, people are reacting. For some types of exposures like inhaling or injecting in medications, it can be faster, but usually it's a delayed response. And so symptoms can look like skin symptoms like hives, rashes, or itching. It can also look like swelling symptoms. Folks with alpha-gal syndrome sometimes have a unique kind of presentation where the palms of their hands and the soles of their feet get very red, itchy, and swell. Their lips, throat, or tongue can also swell, and their eyelids. Breathing and cardiac problems are, of course, more concerning. And so that can include cough, wheezing, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing, and cardiac symptoms of a drop in blood pressure, dizziness, or faintness. I have a star on a group of symptoms, gastrointestinal symptoms, because some folks exclusively have gastrointestinal symptoms of abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, heartburn, and indigestion. Some people, usually we eat our largest portion of meat or mammalian food at night, a steak, a hamburger, a pork chop, a bowl of ice cream. And so sometimes it really helps people identify what their symptoms are from with the PSA kind of terminology of the midnight allergy. We often call alpha-gal syndrome the midnight allergy because people will wake up in the middle of the night after dinner having these new symptoms and not understand why they're happening. The gastrointestinal symptoms can feel like food poisoning at first, but then it keeps happening in the middle of the night. And these reactions can vary person to person, but they can also vary within the same person. The reactions can change over time, involve multiple systems. Actually being consistently inconsistent is actually kind of a hallmark of alpha-gal syndrome, which is very frustrating for patients and providers alike. Next slide, please. So alpha-gal wouldn't be nearly as problematic if it was easily spotted. Obviously, a steak, you can tell, and really that is the common denominator, is that to have alpha-gal syndrome, you must react to some form of mammalian meat. However, there's alpha-gal in so many more things than that. And so depending on how sensitive you are in your allergy, it can also involve dairy. It can also involve cross-contamination from a grill that cooks chicken that previously cooked a steak. For some folks, they cannot even be around a grill. They cannot inhale the cooking fumes of cooking meat. That causes them to react. These are less and less common as I go, by the way. Some people react to leather and even touching mammalian products or animals. There's untold numbers of mammalian products in beauty supplies. And what I argue is honestly incredibly problematic is reaction to medications. Some people can't take their gelatin capsules. Some people also don't even know what's in their medicines because who reads medicine labeling for mammalian products? There are services like Pill Clarity that will help patients figure out if mammal products are in their medicines and find safer products, but this is a pretty troubling development. Next slide. So to recap alpha-gal syndrome, because it is really completely different than anything we've ever dealt with before. First, we have a tick bite. In the United States, it's from the Lone Star tick. Internationally, it's other ticks. Tick bite happens. We don't know how long the tick needs to be biting you to cause this syndrome. Weeks to months later, you're then consuming some sort of mammalian containing product, and then hours after that consumption, you react. And that's how alpha-gal syndrome works. Next slide, please. And who has alpha-gal syndrome? Turns out a lot of people have alpha-gal syndrome. It was only medically discovered and characterized in 2009, and it was only linked to tick bites in 2011. So in medical history, it's a fairly newly discovered condition, but since then, nearly 500,000 Americans are estimated to be living with alpha-gal syndrome, especially where more Lone Star ticks are found. So you can see the red on this map is in these South Atlantic states. That's where Lone Star territory has been traditionally, but it stretches as far up to us. Next slide, please. And I want to talk to you specifically about Martha's Vineyard. I also work for Martha's Vineyard, and alpha-gal syndrome has hit us like a sack of bricks. Lone Star tick has hit us like a sack of bricks. And so this is what testing has looked like on Martha's Vineyard. It went from relative obscurity in 2020 to a huge amount of tests run this year to date. Over 1,600 tests run. In gray bars, those are total tests performed. And then pink are the total number of positive tests. And that is an exponential increase. We do not want to see exponential increases in anything. And so an exponential curve is very bad news. Next slide, please. Now with testing data, I do want to preface, because the Martha's Vineyard data is making the rounds. It was in the New York Times, it was in the Times of London, it's been on national news. However, something I want to just make very clear for both the commissioners and anyone listening on this presentation is that a positive test on its own with no symptoms does not equal allergy. Allergy, there's no such thing as an asymptomatic allergy. You have to have some sort of symptoms. That is what the allergic response is. And so people who test positive, which I was showing you in that last chart, number of positive tests is one piece of the puzzle. And then we need to figure out, and this is the next level of investigation and project that needs to be pursued, is of those people, how many have allergic symptoms? Now, on Martha's Vineyard, we have actually a back of the napkin idea because there was only one allergist on the whole island who actually recently retired in October, but he actively had 400 patients he was seeing for alpha-gal syndrome in a community that's only 20,000 people, which is a huge amount of people experiencing alpha-gal syndrome symptoms. Next slide, please. Now, this is also a really new thing. Again, in medicine, we've talked about this, and really healthcare provider education is the front lines of really making sure that we're meeting the needs of our community, because our physicians need to be aware. This data in front of you is from 2023 when the CDC did a survey and found that by and far the majority of providers had never even heard of alpha-gal syndrome. 78% of healthcare providers at that time, 2 years ago, knew little to nothing about alpha-gal syndrome, even though it is now the 10th most common food allergen. That I'm sure if we repeated this information in this survey again, that would be very different because there's been so much coverage about alpha-gal syndrome in the press, as well as to healthcare providers, but there's still a lot more to do. And so I have the next slide for you about our plan of action. We do have a Barnstable County Tick-Borne Disease Advisory Group. I've been largely spearheading our meetings in the last 2 years. And healthcare provider education has been a big part of that kind of brainstorming and purview. So we're going to continue to pursue healthcare provider education and outreach, as well as community outreach and education on Lone Star ticks and alpha-gal syndrome. We have a shared library of resources already with editable handouts, presentations, and materials. And we do have a strong partnership, and we will continue to have a strong partnership with the Center of Excellence out of University of Massachusetts. And also planned for 2026 is a month-to-month, week-to-week communication calendar based on the seasonality of ticks, diseases, and allergies, so that we're communicating with our community before the bite, during the risk, and after the bite, so that we're helping people understand what they need to be on the lookout for and how to protect themselves. And so with that, we are going to end by saying that we do have a live website already. We have gotten great feedback on our website already. It was launched in spring this year, capecod.gov/tick prevention. Please check it out. We will continue to be adding to it, but so far people have found it very useful. And with that, I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. This is scary stuff. So there isn't any antibiotic or any treatment as of now.
Correct, because it's an allergy, it is not treated with antibiotics, and there is no allergy treatment that is known to be successful. Actually, thank you for asking that question, because for some people, the allergy can go away in usually the matter of years, like 2 to 3 to 5 years. Key to it going away and having a chance to have it go away is not getting more tick bites. That's really important.
Right. Now, correct me, if somebody gets a tick bite, a deer tick bite, and they go to the doctor, they're usually administered some sort of antibiotic for a month. And that seems to work. But there isn't such a thing to ward off any so really the biggest side effect of having a bite, not only is it itchy and that sort of thing, but it's this allergy that you get. That's whereas in deer ticks, people will associate aches, pains, different other symptoms. Does the Lone Star also give those in addition? Do we know?
Lone Star carries also other infectious diseases too, including bacterial infectious diseases and viral infectious diseases. And so there's the possibility that someone can get an infectious disease from a Lone Star tick bite as well. Alpha-gal syndrome, again, being an allergy and not an infectious disease, has a different set of symptoms. And so it won't look like what people are used to, the aches and pains of Lyme disease, perhaps. You won't have a fever. You won't have signs of infection because it's an allergy. And so it does look different. And so that shifts a lot of our kind of preparedness and collective recognition of what could be caused by a tick. However, this is certainly something that the whole point of this presentation is to launch our beginning campaign of awareness on really alpha-gal syndrome on Cape Cod, because there are certainly folks experiencing these tick bites. When I was in Brewster over Labor Day weekend, I walked behind a gentleman who said, I had these miserable bites all over my ankles. I thought they were like chigger bites. He blamed chiggers. I didn't see an opening, but I was like, I bet those are Lone Star larvae. I bet they are.
Right.
Yeah, they're so
Yeah,
small.
I look back, although I haven't had any trouble with meat, so, but I look back, I'm thinking back of the different itches and different little bites that I've gotten because they love me. And I also had a friend who had a dog that got very, very sick for a year. We thought we were going to lose that dog, but the dog did rebound finally. But it was a long year and miserable to watch. What
I would
else do
also
you-
say that the Lone Star ticks are certainly a threat to pets as well. And so it's important to talk to your veterinarian about the best way to protect them against ticks. But the Lone Stars, they are aggressive and they will bite dogs as much as they will bite humans.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, I think Ron.
Ron,
dying to
yeah,
ask a
You know,
question.
if one gets bitten by a deer tick, you can send it off to the lab and they'll tell you whether that deer tick is infected with Lyme disease. But what you're telling me is that all the Lone Star ticks are capable of transmitting this allergy.
Yes, and you can still send in your Lone Star tick to figure out if it has infectious diseases. Like that might still be worthwhile for you. You might decide. But the alpha-gal syndrome part, no one's going to test for that because that's nascent to the tick. The tick has this molecule in their saliva at all stages. It's our bodies that decide this is foreign or not. Some people don't get alpha-gal syndrome from a Lone Star tick bite. Some people do. It's really your immune system deciding whether or not this is a foreign invader and creating an allergic response or not.
Yeah. You know, with Lyme disease, there seemed to have been an argument for many years among various entomologists as to the, you know, how it transmitted the disease. Some people say that it was exaggerated. Some people say it wasn't. In other words, how long the symptoms last. I have a nephew who, you know, he's 30, but he was diagnosed with Lyme disease when he was 18. And they say, well, is this a continuing of the Lyme disease? And, you know, it seems to me that it takes a while. It took a while for the scientists to get a handle on what the effects of this is and how long it takes. And I wonder what the status of the understanding of this particular disease is right now. I mean, do you feel you have a good handle on it and as to how it affects, you know, how many people it will affect and how long it, you know, I know you've given us good information, but do you really feel confident that you have a handle on this right now?
No, thank you for that question, Commissioner. Actually, it's still very much so an active area of science. There's a lot of questions still to be answered, and more resources from both the federal government and state governments are being directed to resolving those questions. For example, as I said, we don't really know who is actually going to become allergic. You could get a Lone Star tick bite. I could get a Lone Star tick bite. Who actually ends up developing alpha-gal syndrome and why is still a mechanistically poorly understood problem. There's a couple hypotheses, but there's not a clear picture to be able to predict who's going to become the allergic person. So that's very much so under investigation. Also being able to identify who's most likely to get over their alpha-gal syndrome. There's people who do not. And so there's people who have to live with this for the rest of their lives. And it is life-changing for people. There's definitely folks who do get over it, but we don't understand why. So there's a lot of still investigation to be done. I talk to one of the alpha-gal experts of the United States often. His name is Dr. Scott Cummins. He's out of University of North Carolina. And there's still much to be pursued. And I'm happy to keep the commissioners abreast of the information as I get it.
Do you think, I mean, it sounds like it might be a genetic predisposition to getting this allergy, or
It is certainly possible. They're definitely looking at different components. That's going to take a great epidemiology study and a research study to really follow people over time. It's called a prospective cohort study to really figure out what at the molecular level is happening. And that's the kind of study that Scott Cummins works on. And so, yes, that still needs to be figured out.
So I do have one other final question. So say I have this syndrome and I eat a steak, I get sick? Is that how it works? Like you have an allergic reaction?
For most folks, so again, the common denominator exposure, the most frequent reactive food is like mammalian meat. So when people with alpha-gal syndrome eat mammalian meat, usually 2 to 8 hours later, they have some sort of reaction. Now that can be also exacerbated by things like exercise and alcohol, things that make you vasodilate and make that food uptake into your system happen more quickly. And so there's different pieces of alpha-gal syndrome, and I do want to be respectful of time, but yes, there's variability in people's reactions, but the most common denominator is mammalian meat itself, and then it can also include dairy or trace exposures as well.
Yeah, just a quick question.
We gotta move on.
We're at the northern end of the range of this particular organism.
Yes.
Is it sensitive to climate? In other words, can we predict and say, oh, we had a bad winter this winter, chances are there'll be fewer ticks or so on, or do we not have that information yet?
Escher, do you want to take that question? I can guess, but I'm not the entomologist.
Okay.
Let's see what you got.
Sure. I mean, I talk about it often and I work with another entomologist too, so I'm going to do my best here. So really, in terms of their hardiness in winter, I do think that has yet to be tested. We, for example, on Martha's Vineyard, we have winters very similar to Cape Cod. So if you're thinking about, is Cape Cod protected? I would not bet that you are, because Vineyard is seeing an explosion of Lone Star tick, and they've consistently seen an explosion of the population across the whole island, all 6 towns in suburbia as well as in rural for the last 15 years. So I would not necessarily count Cape Cod safe. Is Maine safe? Maybe.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we still have more research to do about the edge of the range and their hardiness to cold climates. But we do know that they are hardy to heat and dryness. So like, just because you're doing regular maintenance of your lawn, it doesn't mean that Lone Star ticks aren't going to be on it.
Well, this is a lot of information. I have been curious about this, not only because there are a lot of ticks around and we're usually in the woods, and you know, my friend with his dog, it was pretty scary. It was a great dog. And just get this word out to all those doctors' offices and clinics and libraries or wherever else. But whatever we have, we'll try to make sure we get out there. But it is something that people really have to be aware of. And now that if they get these symptoms, they might associate their visit to the doctor, you know, and be able to bring that forward. So indeed. Thank you, both of you, so much for this work. It is so important, and another great thing that government can do and help people with and help them navigate. So again, very nice to meet you. Welcome aboard.
Nice to
and
meet you.
Very good to meet you, Leah, and we look forward to seeing you again. And hopefully we'll be talking more positively with some sort of remedy.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Very much we appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, now we are going to have a presentation on the fiscal year 2025 annual report by our stellar communications coordinator, Sonia Sheasley. Who's there? I know, you're hiding behind it.
Yep.
I never Robin. She's hiding behind. You want to do anything?
Okay. Let me share my screen. And there it is.
There it is.
All right. Okay, so for the record, my name is Sonia Sheasley, Communications Manager for the county. So I'm here to introduce again the annual report, the FY25 annual report, which is now complete, publicly available on capecod.gov. The report, like all of our reports, is a singular document that is an accessible record of the multitude of ways that the county serves our region.
That photograph that you have there on the screen.
Yeah, I'm going to
Where
tell
is
you
it?
about that.
That is the Chatham Lighthouse in Stage Harbor. I've
Yes.
been there. It hasn't changed since 1935.
Yeah.
Is that so that you go there regularly, Ron?
I don't, I was in there twice in 50 years, but I remember it very vaguely. And it's an iconic shot, you know,
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
It is.
So I'll tell you something else about that photograph. That actually was taken by our assets and infrastructure manager, Paul Rusala.
Oh,
So
really?
he's an amateur photographer,
Mhm.
and so we decided that was just such a captivating photo.
It is amazing, and he caught that sky.
That's
It
the
is
Milky
amazing how you
Way.
can catch the sky now with these cameras.
Yeah, he's really good with night photography. So
Mhm.
he showed me several photos, and there are others of his in our administration section and the commissioner section.
Okay, just a little photo gallery.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good
So
choice.
thank you to Paul for that photo
Does he
and
get
the
a
other
credit
photos.
in the-
Yes, he does. Of course. Yep. So this report actually it's about 250 pages long. It marks the arrival of our new county, not new anymore, but new then, County Administrator Michael Dutton, who came, as you know, in September 2024. He includes his message on page 12. Just going to go to that, which was, so his message touches upon many different county activities, including our role in sustainability, water quality, much more, and of course the county's evolving role in our regional problem solving as a regional problem solver and convener. Some other highlights that we see in the report. I'm just going to click back to the beginning here.
More people will look at the picture than
Yeah.
the report.
Right. Was that Paul's
Well,
picture
let's
there
hope
as
not.
well of the,
I don't think so, but there are other ones that I
I
can
can
show
send
you.
you some of mine. I got
Of
great
course.
pictures of that at night.
Yeah, we always need good photos. But some of the highlights that we see in this report is, of course, the transition of other leadership. We thank Sean O'Brien for his many, many years of service. And then we welcome Jay Gardner, who came on as our new health director. And just to give you a few snippets, because I don't usually do this, but there's so many interesting things. I mean, the annual report, people joke no one reads it, but there are just so many interesting things that we see that the county does. Children's Cove actually received 278 referrals in FY25. That's a 74% increase in cases. In FY25, the Water Quality Lab became Mass DP certified to test drinking water for PFAS. They analyzed 160 PFAS drinking water samples, and overall they tested more than 20,000 samples and conducted 38 tests. And the Cooperative Extension secured new grant funding to expand local food access. They distributed 3.5 million quahog seed and more than 1.3 million oyster seed, really strengthening our shellfish industry. AmeriCorps, they responded to 15 marine mammal strandings. I think it was like something like 62 total animals that they saved.
Mhm.
Of course, they supported disaster preparedness, conservation, education across the region. And during FY25, that's when they reached 1 million service hours since 1999. And the dredge completed 12 projects in 8 towns. They removed more than 81,000 cubic yards of material. Of course, supporting navigation, but also strengthening coastal resilience on the Cape. Human Services managed more than $5 million in grants and continued their shared regional housing services pilot that serves all 15 towns. And just a couple more couple more. Our fire training division at the Cape Cod Center for Public Safety trained 595 students at fire stations. Delivering hands-on training. That's across the Cape. And in the annual report also, finance actually gave me some very nice graphs this year. So we introduced more accessible financial graphs and visuals. So of course that makes budget and revenue and expenditure data much more accessible. And then I just wanted to quickly touch on some communications, which I included in the administration section. So you'll see in this report that, bless you, CapeCod.gov saw strong year-over-year growth. We have a lot more users. The data is in there. We're accessing a lot more people. Of course, we sent out 12 newsletters from the commissioner's office, always reaching, we have 45,000 contacts plus, always growing. Our open click rate is far above industry standards, which is good. And now we're going to be sending out more newsletters. Something I did differently this year in the annual report was I listed out all of our press releases that we sent out from the commissioners' meetings. So it's a nice snapshot of the many things that we're doing that show up obviously in the commissioners' meetings.
I think by doing that, it's a great resource for staff too.
Oh, absolutely.
I would bet that we have staff that will access that on a regular basis just to reflect on, do some research in terms of what we've announced, what we've done.
Absolutely.
And, I think it's a great idea.
We can have it for that too. We'll go back on those things.
Absolutely.
No.
And also remember, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, finish your thought.
I was just going to say that it's always easy to access all of our press releases from our navigation bar on the website. So there's a couple different ways you can do it, but the list just from the commissioner's office.
I've learned throughout my career
Mhm.
in government that having good external communications and access by staff enhances internal communications.
Yes.
And that's always our challenge. We're so busy with all our departments, so many good things going on, or interesting things going on. So the biggest challenge in any organization like this is for the right hand and the left hand to know what everyone's up to. So being able to access this information is incredibly important from a management point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're also, we like to think that everybody knows everybody, but the reality is in some cases, many cases, they don't.
Right.
And so it's also a way to better understand what our colleagues are doing and who they are and what they're working on. So I think for a variety of reasons, doing that is incredibly important. It has an external benefit, which is obviously the purpose of it, but it has a huge internal benefit that's often overlooked.
And it's also, we have to always remember that even though we're growing and some people are living here, year round more, there is a transient nature to this and there's always new people leaving and new people coming in and have no idea that there's a county here. So we're always having to re-educate and try to reach out to people who have no idea. And the more they look, the more they see what is available to help them navigate another issue. So the other question I was going to have, do we do any of these in print anymore?
We don't. A few years ago, I can't remember how many, maybe it was 4.
Yeah, maybe
4 or 5 years ago we stopped. But we can print on demand. Actually, this report, if you look down here, I can't do it from, if you click on this, this little ellipsis here, well, it's not working for me, but anyway, if you click on that, then it will give you the ability to download the whole document or like by page. Gives you a lot of different options and in different formats. But yes, and I was just going to mention also that accessibility remains a really big issue and really important for us to make sure that this is accessible. So this format that I'm using, you can view it in different, it's flexible in like how you can view the text. And of course, like I said, you can download it.
Ian, can you get a shot of the report on this so people can see it? We can see it, but I think there's a TV audience seeing that.
They can see it.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. In terms of promotion, how I manage promotion every year when I release this is I'll link it to today's press release. I'll send it out in the next newsletter. It's going to be featured on capecod.gov in the news feed, and I'll share it on social media. Sometimes I did this last year, and I can do this again. I make a short video and send it out to the local access TV stations, and sometimes they like to get some content just to promote something like this.
Right.
So,
No, it looks great, and I can't wait to open it up and look through all those pages and see. I think we need updates on photos and sort of that sort of thing.
yes.
But it is what it is for now, and I'm sure it's great. So thank you for all of your work
Sure. Thank you.
and getting the good news, spreading the
you.
good news.
And I should probably just say too, thank you to all the departments and all the staff that contributed content, photos and everything, because this is a team effort. This is not just my work. Everybody does this.
Right, you would be able to do it if they didn't help.
My
you out.
suspicion is you've been chasing people around.
Yes,
to
getting
bring in,
there.
Well,
Nagging
Right,
them,
right.
probably plugging them.
But they'll be
Part of the
happy once
process.
they see all their work highlighted, they'll be
Asking the
happy.
county
Yeah.
administrator to chase people around for you,
Right,
and then you finally get it together.
well, I didn't say
The
it.
herding cat. Well done.
Thank
No,
you.
very nice. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Sure.
Okay, so now we are moving on to proposed ordinance 25 to be named, transfer of unreserved funds to the capitalization fund. Yes, Mr.
And I will handle that one. This is quite simple. It's just taking some of our unreserved funds and putting them into capital stabilization. Good practice. As you know, we've got north of $70 million worth of unmet capital needs, existing capital needs. And so this just is good practice all around, and we're hoping to continue to set aside money as we have the unreserved funds available to do that.
We discussed this at our last meeting, and this was one of our recommended action items.
Right,
I see Carol's now here.
right.
You want to take
So-
front stage here, Carol?
Well, she'll be up next. She's
Yeah.
coming up on the budget revised.
So Madam
So,
Chair, I move to approve the introduction of proposed ordinance 25 to be named transfer of unreserved funds to the capital stabilization fund.
I'll second that.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
have a quick question for
Yes.
Carol or Michael. What does that leave with the in the unreserved fund balance after we make this transfer? Do we know?
That one I will leave for Carol. I could give you an approximate.
I mean, if you don't have it at your fingertips, it's not like I need it right now, but just curious.
So I completed some analysis to determine cash flow and necessary cash flow that the county would need. So we were just under $11 million when we closed the fiscal year in June 30th. And so this, we'll subtract $4.5 million from that, and that is what would be remaining.
Okay, so we're here to talk about our capital budget revised. A revised capital budget, is that right? No, I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm sorry, our employee reimbursement policy, we just did the other.
You know, it would be helpful.
No, you,
Capital budget, right?
I'm sorry.
We just,
Yes, capital, nope, you're on the,
No, I'm on the right
capital
budget,
budget
capital
revised.
Budget, so.
Correct.
All right, so we need to have any more discussion on this?
Maybe Vera could just walk through why we're proposing this and
Okay.
what's going on with
Yeah,
100 and
thanks.
some odd.
Good morning. Vera Harik, Assistant County Administrator. Predominantly worked on the capital budget with Carol. So at your last meeting, 2 weeks ago, you approved a proposed budget, a proposed capital ordinance of 1.029 million. And that included a project to replace in fiscal 27 two heating boilers here in the Superior Courthouse. On the chance that the boilers would survive into the summer of, for replacement in fiscal 27. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and one of them has One of them has failed. And so we need to accelerate the project to fiscal 26. Funding for the project in fiscal 26, estimated $125,000 is available as a part of the this overall courthouse renovation that's going on right now. And obviously would be reimbursable, but as such, we're withdrawing the this particular project, boiler replacement, from the ordinance for fiscal 27 capital expenditures.
Right.
And therefore, we go from 7 projects to 6 projects for now a proposed amount of capital spending in fiscal 27 of $904,000.
Okay, so it's basically that's going to be replaced. It's just a different.
It's sooner than what we
It's
thought.
going to be
Right.
included in the courthouse renovation rather than this capital appropriation.
Yes.
So it's good
And
news.
we've invested,
Yeah.
we've made sure that the appropriations are in place, and there's appears to be sufficient funding via prior appropriations for the courthouse renovation where this would fit. If not, we'll be back. Yeah.
I move to approve Madam Chair, I move to approve the introduction of proposed ordinance 2025 to be named later, fiscal year 2027 capital budget revised.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done, thank you. It's gonna happen anyway. Carol, come and join us. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. How's everything?
Great, thank you.
Good.
The county has established an employee expense reimbursement policy and procedures. Previously, we continued to review and update those on an annual basis. And so we have a few changes to this document that we would like to propose, and I can just review those changes. They're not significant at all. We have added a tip reimbursement up to 15% of the pre-tax charge for meals. We have, and for taxi or ride shares as well. We've added information in advising folks that have a P card, as we call it, a procurement card, a purchasing card. It's, it's named multiple different ways. If it we have some folks that we restrict their ability to charge certain expenses on those cards. And so this just clarifies the use of those cards for travel. That's all. We clarify that mileage calculation for reimbursements calculated from the employee's primary work location or home, whichever results in the lesser of mileage. We remove public transportation or taxi or ride share from the list of travel expenses that are not eligible to be used for the P card. And then we introduced a new standard for employees to utilize for travel when we require GSA rates, adherence to GSA rates. But sometimes when a conference is held at a particular location, the hotel stay may exceed those GSA rates. And so we require, this is just a form that the employee would complete. Their department head would sign off on that, approving it, and then it would come to finance to approve as well.
Okay, could you say what GSA is just for the public?
General Services Administration.
Thank you.
And so they set rates for all over the country, and it's really state specific or even locality specific, like Cape Cod would have a very specific rate for hotel stays, things of that nature. So those are the changes that we're proposing.
Have we increased the reimbursement amount?
So GSA rates change every year.
Right.
And so we adhere to those, typically to those rates. I mean, we have some difficulty here on the Cape when we have folks that are traveling, let's say to Martha's Vineyard or something, and they have to stay over,
Right.
they don't meet the GSA rate,
Right.
right? And we can't expect an employee to pay for this out of their pocket. right? So we have to have a mechanism in place where there's a pre-approval process.
Right.
And that's what this does.
Right. There you go.
Can
You
we
know.
work, can we work out a deal with a hostel?
You can build one. No.
AmeriCorps project. There you go.
Yeah, an AmeriCorps
Do the
project.
mileage, do they adjust the mileage rate every year?
We adhere to IRS standards on mileage rates, which change every year,
Has that been is it in the our fiscal year, or is it the calendar year?
calendar year.
So it will change January 1st.
It will change January. I don't know off the top of my head what it's going to
What it
be.
is.
I'm sure it's already
Pennies
set.
more. Anyway. Okay, any other questions,
No, great,
concerns?
great job.
Nothing? Okay. We have a motion.
I move to approve the updated employment reimbursement policy as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Unless there's anything else on your mind there, Carol?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So now we are going to discuss authorizing a draft letter in opposition to Massachusetts House Bill 3971, directing a study on the feasibility of placing registries of deeds for county governments that have not been abolished under the oversight of the Secretary of Commonwealth. So someone explain what this is to us.
So, Madam Chair, this bill was filed some months ago, and it came to our attention through some of the work that we do with our neighboring counties. And House Bill 3971 essentially would create a study committee with the objective of transferring the registry of deeds that are still operated under county government, the few that are operated under county government, to operate under the Secretary of State's purview. And so the draft letter that you have simply opposes that and opposes the adoption of H 3971 for a number of reasons, but essentially the letter points out that we've operated as a county government since the late 1600s, and the Registry of Deeds has operated very well for that period of time, and no reason to change the dynamic at this point. At this point in time, ran the letter by our current Register of Deeds, longtime Register of Deeds, Jack Mead. He was very supportive of the letter, and so now it's in front of the commissioners to adopt if you so choose.
Yes, I do remember this conversation last time we met. And yeah, I think especially on Cape Cod where deeds and roadways and paper roads and to track all of that, I don't think they'd be able to do that there as much as I
Well, there are,
respect the secretary.
yeah, no, there are some legislators that are not big fans of county government, and they have no real awareness and understanding of what we do
Oh, exactly
and
right.
how we work. And so I think part of this is we're beginning to really get a better handle on the legislators that are pro-county and those that aren't. And I think we need to continue to make a statement and reach out and interact with legislators that are very supportive of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and maybe we should even kind of gather a list of who's who, so that we can, when we encounter people,
Right,
or if we want to make a
right.
real effort to go out and reach out.
There's another issue here. I mean, this is deja vu because basically the sheriff split from the county not that long ago, 10 years ago, and it seemed like a simple transfer, but it turned out to be an enormous imbroglio when it came to the responsibility for the retirement benefits of the employees. I don't know if we're carrying his retirement benefits now under the county auspices. Do you guys know?
The sheriff's?
Yeah,
No,
not
no.
the sheriff's.
For the Registry of Deeds,
The
they're
registry
county
law.
employees.
Yeah.
So if this were to happen, and we create the same issue
Oh, yeah, because I'm sure they wouldn't take that. with them.
Well, we don't want it to happen.
We don't want it to
No,
happen.
we don't want it to
For a
happen
number
at
of
all.
reasons.
Yeah.
And we've gotten along, as far as I've been involved with county government now for nearly 20 years, and we've never had any problems with it.
Yeah, the least of our problems is the numbers.
You know, we've gotten along, we've passed their budget, we,
Right.
big, you know.
But this is
it's been
one of,
good, so.
again, I hate looking ahead, but sometimes we need to, as you know, we're all committed to solving our financial challenges.
Yes.
But I'm sure there's some people that may, I hate to say this, hope we fail. All right, because it creates opportunities to change things
Right.
and change things. This gives you a sense of the kind of things that are out there.
Yeah.
Proposals that are floating around.
Right.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to
Alright.
keep up on these.
right.
Well-
So I think it's important to keep aware of the political landscape
Yeah,
and
and
who our
the,
friends are and.
right, and with the temperature, what's the thinking
Yeah.
being
Exactly.
floated?
That's why I was so happy that we did that press release touting the way we managed the ARPA funds. That's
Right.
why it's good to do
That's right.
cataloging on our website, information about the work that we're doing, the accomplishments of the departments, our top employees, initiatives like today, Lyme disease, creating an awareness, all of these things. Now, it's not like somebody comes from Beacon Hill and does an audit, all right, and we have interaction. No, people watch us oftentimes from a distance. They'll watch the meetings on YouTube or they'll check on videos, they'll look at our agenda, they'll look at our website. So there are a lot of folks that do pay attention to what we're doing. And I think the more that we can continue to showcase the good things that we're doing and keep an eye out for the bad things, the things that can threaten county government, particularly ours.
I think that, I think if you go back now, it seems a couple of years ago, in response to the COVID crisis, where we were able to inoculate people down here, where the rest of the state was way behind
Yes.
what we were
Well,
able to do.
exactly. When we dove into this, people would, you had people in their 80s driving to Gillette Stadium.
Exactly.
Give me a break. They were
I
going to
know.
the Fenway Park because folks in Boston had their favorite dispensary or operations
Yeah,
that they were funding, and our people were really stuck. So yeah, I think it was great that we were able to step up and work with our department. We had the capability here to mobilize all sorts of volunteers and resources. I agree with you, Ron. I think that was a shining example of just how good this county can serve the people here on Cape Cod. And we need to keep doing that. That's why Sonia's reports, the work that she's doing, getting that out there is incredibly important. It all fits in. That's why I like for us periodically to weigh in with legislators. Let legislators know that we're paying attention.
Okay.
So we have a motion, do we?
Yeah, we're here. I move to approve the draft letter in opposition to the Massachusetts House Bill 3971 as presented.
And I will second that.
all right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, new business, otherwise not anticipated by the chair. Well, that new business sort of walked in the door this morning during public comment, and I did touch upon it, so it's still new business since we didn't really do anything.
Yeah, before you came in, that the new business was
Right,
meeting waiting
Was-
for me outside.
yes.
And so,
So I think that what I would like to say is that we hear the concerns, not just in Harwich, but across the Cape with some of these developments, including on the Outer Cape, which, you know, as you go down or up, however you look at Cape, the Outer Cape, you know, it's thinner, it's smaller, it's less resources, and they still want to act like we're in Quincy or something, and well, let's just build this enormous apartment building. So it's beginning to catch up with everyone, and is it really to keep the kids here in the end? It's all about letting our children to be able to grow here. That was the first, you know, we need affordable housing
Yeah.
so our young people don't leave. Well, you know, I don't know if that's really solving that problem. It seems like a
Well, I
lot
think
of
we-
these young people can't afford what's being proposed.
Yeah, just like to jump in here for a minute. We're going to discuss the
the new business.
general.
Yes, the general comment, public
The general
comment.
comment, you know, we're often seeing a situation where the executive authority, especially in the federal government, appoints people and expects them to do what he tells them.
Mhm.
Okay. we appoint the head of the Cape Cod Commission, but we have to be very careful if we use that authority to try to force them to do something that they're not, that it violates their protocol, in other words. So when we're asked to weigh in on it, we certainly have the right to weigh in on anything. But we have to understand the ultimate authority is up to the members of the commission who are appointed by the 15 towns. You know, they're the ones who are going to make the decision.
They are, but in reality, the act, and this is something that I did want to bring up and ask that our future chair follow up on this and put it on an agenda in the month of January. But the reason that the Cape Cod Commission can't really just come in and say, no, is because that act limited them to that authority over commercial development. And whoever wrote the act back then, I'm sure there was some developers in the room, but they did not allow it for residential, which was really upside down. And so a lot of development happened. We didn't have sewering. We're now paying the price for that. But to me, where the sewering is beginning to open up avenues of being able to do more of what we knew was hurting the place in the first. So the bottom line is Martha's Vineyard Commission does have purview over 40Bs, and that is a deficit in the act of the commission. So I would like to pursue in the future getting that act changed to strengthen it, to be able to have more say and purview over these developments, especially as, and let's be honest, we've all been on this train of, we understand that there's a housing issue. We all care about it. We want to make sure people are housed. And the homeless has lost their voice. It's about affordability, and the homeless cannot afford anything. So we can't forget that population as well. And we're not focusing on that. And we have a significant population between us and the islands. So I think that it's time for us to go and face what we're look at what we're facing for real and see if we can strengthen that. So I'm going to put that on you.
Hey.
As well, not that I know who the chair is going to be, but I'm assuming if all things go the way we usually work, or whoever is the chair, and that we have to really take a look at this, because we are the people who are sitting in these seats, and we are here to keep a beautiful, special place.
Nobody, I think we all recognize that housing, for good or bad, is going to be the biggest issue facing us in the new year. Not just us, I mean collectively on the Cape. So whatever we can do as commissioners and to weigh in on that and try to make it so that the Cape benefits from that, it is what we should do.
Well, we have a different geography here. We don't have the capacity to build other roads around things. It's all about escape routes. I mean, how do we evacuate, especially in the Outer Cape? There's one road and one road only for a long time before you get up to Dennis. And, you might have these other ones, but there's not very much room on these either. So, there's other things other than just housing. And in reality, this housing issue is because of the income disparities and economic disparities of our country. And we're not going to fix it by killing a cash cow, which is really what Cape Cod is the state will not have the revenue from this place that it's having now if they keep putting more people here and other people aren't coming to spend their money, enjoy themselves. It's not going to happen.
We should probably move on from this.
Yes,
before we get
anyway.
into trouble.
Thank you. I probably have gotten into trouble, but anyway, I've gotten that far, and I think there's a lot to think about. So that's for future. Any other new business that came up in your lives okay. Move to authorize the commissioner's consent agenda as listed, and we will take one.
Ron, can you make a motion?
First motion.
Okay,
please.
I move to authorize the commissioner's consent agenda items 8B through 8I.
No. The first one is just what is A.
Oh, sorry, to 8A as listed on the consent agenda. 8A as listed on the December 17, 2025 agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I abstain.
Yes, and for
Okay,
that
now,
is
moving
because
right
we're
along.
talking about,
I move to authorize the Commissioner's consent agenda items 8B through 8I as listed on the December 17th, 2025 agenda.
second,
I will second.
okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right, commissioners' reports. I have a report.
Go for it.
Okay, I went to the Human Rights Breakfast last week. Very well done. Congratulations, Leslie. Santos Domingos, have I got their names right? And who is the head of our human rights. And I want to thank, it's Jackie. Just went right out of my head. And I had that list. Jackie, who was the chair of the Human Rights Commission. She is exiting, and Marie Blackburn Younger is stepping into her place. And for those of you who have been here for at least 25 years, will know of her. She's been very big in supporting women's issues. She has a talk podcast where she talks to a lot of people. She is a great representative for people of color as well as women. And I just think it's a great choice, and it's I think she's gonna do a great job. So it was well done. Somebody from the Outer Cape, Harriet Jerusa Quorum, received an award, the Tim McCarthy Award. So there was a lot of people from the Outer Cape there, and it was just a very nice and meaningful breakfast. And that's all I have to report.
Well, I think we probably, so you're telling us that Jean Morrison is.
Morrison,
She's stepping down.
Jeannie, yes.
Yes.
Jeannie Morrison is stepping down, yes.
So I think we owe her a great deal of thanks,
Thanks.
gratitude
Yes.
for her service. And congratulations to the incoming chair. And I would agree with you. She's an incredible sort of force of nature. And I think she'll do a wonderful job
I do too.
as the new chair.
Yeah, at some point, maybe Leslie can come in and introduce Marie, and we'll have a little chat. That would be
I
nice.
think that'd be a great idea.
Anything else? Nope. Okay, upcoming business.
Can I
Oh,
just
yes, you have
chime in with something?
Yes, please.
The other day, the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association met in Dennis.
Yes,
And
and I
we
did,
invited,
I Googled it. Go ahead.
we invited the Cape superintendents, school superintendents from across the Cape to meet with county and municipal officials. Commissioner Bergstrom was there, and
I was there online.
and it was great to get us all there to listen firsthand to some of the challenges that the school superintendency is facing. I think they're looking for collaboration with municipal officials in the county on a whole range of topics, how we can work together to meet the housing needs of many of our school employees that are finding themselves challenged in terms of finding a place to stay when they get a new job as a teacher, regardless of where they are. The other brief point of discussion at the meeting, but I think it's going to pick up, is the DY superintendent, Mark Smith, who's done a phenomenal job for DY. He had touched on the need to really get a better handle on changing demographics in enrollment numbers. And he's offering a letter looking for funding from our legislators to support some kind of further independent analysis. I happen to think that just given all the money and time and energy that we've invested with our housing studies and the housing strategy, I mean, we spent a fair amount of time digging into the weeds in terms of what's going on with housing, that we may have the ability to provide some help and some guidance through the outstanding staff at the Cape Cod Commission, and in terms of analyzing what's going on out there, so that we can get a better handle on enrollment numbers. The town of Yarmouth is faced with the need to look at building a new school. We're doing a feasibility study on a new school in the town of Yarmouth. When you look at new school construction projects, that school could be anywhere from $50 to $70 million, which is and think about any other community on the county. It's going to cost a new elementary school could cost one town that kind of money. Imagine what it could be in Mashpee or some other place. So we need to take a hard look at what's going on and get a realistic assessment on enrollment. Again, a lot of this is driven by the state. These enrollment numbers are state-driven, state-developed using state analysts
Formulas
and state formulas. And I don't want to suggest that the numbers that they put together are bad. I think we could benefit by providing some county review, county analysis. So I think there's going to be more to come on this topic, so stay tuned.
What I thought was interesting of that topic was, in the end, I think it was the superintendent overall, the regional superintendent, was talking about the school choice impact.
Yes.
And I know that that has impacted the town I live in, Wellfleet. And, I can understand, I think school choice came, and it worked in the urban areas of Boston and their surrounding areas. When you had schools that were dilapidated, not really being invested in. I mean, the problem is we base these schools, we build them and the services based on property tax. And if you're in a poor neighborhood, you don't have as much as you would in a wealthy neighborhood. So school choice comes along. That wasn't really, sort of like 40B doesn't fit on the Cape. School choice doesn't actually fit on the Cape. And Prop 2.5 doesn't fit on the Cape. But these are all things that were put into place 25 plus years ago. And now they're realizing that this has been a drag in many ways and not something that was a positive outcome. So there's a lot of things to reassess and relook at, but school choice is something, to me, is more of I can understand if you have a child with special needs and that school is excellent at that, I can see that. But all in all, as he said, the curriculum, the ability, the talent in all of these schools of the teachers are pretty much the same across the board on the Cape. And so it's great if you could say, I'm going to put my kid in Barnstable because I go to work up there and I can pick the kid up on the way back, or if the kid gets sick, I'm right there. If it's being used for that, then it's not really being used the way it was intended. And so anyway, there was a lot of good stuff that came out of that. Interesting challenges that are ahead that will need some addressing. So
the other item would be our next meeting. Will be at the Mass Municipal. We'll take to heart the recommendations of our finance team in terms of making sure we're good at how we manage our expenses.
That's right. Our next meeting is going to be the MMA.
So, yes.
For the Cape and Islands Municipal Leadership is going to get. I saw that on the schedule. Yeah.
23rd, and we're going to have lunch, and we're going to look forward to meeting with the Lieutenant Governor. Now, I don't pick the time that the Lieutenant Governor meets with us, and when this is chosen by her and her
In the
staff.
second year.
Right. So I think it's great meeting with her, but there's some things that other people like to attend and this is, I think the WeMo lunch is a very popular item.
Right. And this year it's an interesting speaker.
Yeah. So I've asked to see if we can find another way to do this. Problem is that it may be a much later part of the day, or maybe on a different day. But I'm of the belief that, sometimes if you've got a commitment for Friday at 11:30 and, I don't want to lose that. So
Yes, no.
we gotta, it's not, I don't pick the time, but I've been getting some fairly angry calls.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I say it's always.
On the time that's chosen.
Right.
So I just want you to know I'm doing my best.
Well, just
Okay,
another
Mark.
note on that is that traditionally at that meeting, the Mass Municipal Association gives us an update on what the legislature is going to provide to the individual towns as far as Chapter 90, Chapter 70. In other words, they're going to tell us what the fiscal environment is going forward in aids to the individual towns. Now, it doesn't directly affect us, but you know, we are a product of the towns. We have to know exactly what the.
Oh, and it's not gonna be a good conversation
Yeah,
this year.
well, I'm putting together a list of things to sort of raise in a meeting. So if you've got something that we need a bone to pick, with the governor's office, let me know, pass it on to me. Dredging is on the list, along with a host of other things. So
Mhm.
feel free to,
Okay,
send me an email, Commissioner.
we will. I think that brings it up to
Michael?
our county administrator.
All right, well, thank you. I'll just for a few seconds, I'll turn it over to Carol. Because one of the things Commissioner Forrest mentioned at this meeting was sometimes we don't know each other. We all work under a county umbrella, so I want you to meet our new assistant treasurer and
Yes, come right up.
All right.
get a little introduction.
Is this when we start the hazing?
Come on up and have a seat
I'm
and introduce yourself.
I'm so happy to introduce Tim Cabral.
Hello, Tim.
We- He's coming in as our, started on Monday, as our assistant treasurer. Our current assistant treasurer is retiring in February.
Oh,
And so Tim has come in early.
Cape Cod
So-
name, Cabral.
Yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Born
Are you?
and raised.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
From
There you
where?
go, from where?
Marston's Mills.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim is coming from Cape Cod 5. He spent 9 years there at the banking, and his credentials are excellent to bolster the finance department, the dream team we call ourselves now.
Right. Oh, good.
So I just wanted to introduce you to Tim.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
When Carol gives us an explanation of all the responsibilities she has overseeing all the accounts and so on, and the investments and so on, I think there must be like 5 of her in the building. I understand that. She actually got.
She does have a few elves back there helping her out.
Yeah.
More sorely needed, and I'm sure your dance card will be filled.
I'm sure, yes.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the opportunity, though.
Well, we welcome you, and if Carol's happy, we're happy, and as you can hear, there's a lot to think about, a lot to do, and keeping us straight. That's what we depend on you for. Keeping us out of
Absolutely.
jail. So not doing anything wrong. So congratulations. I'm glad that
Thank you.
you were able to find someone. I'm sure it's Cape Cod 5's loss and our gain. So
Very
welcome aboard.
Thank you so
Hope
much.
you fit in and get comfortable real quick.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Nice to meet everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Can I
Thank
see
you.
it? What is it? Is it a feather?
Oh, this is the jewelry section.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but it's
Yeah.
just been,
We'll take a brief fashion.
it's.
Please approach the
it's-
bench.
what is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. My mother
Sidebar.
bought it for me like 20 years ago.
I'm hypnotized.
It looks,
Just vote, no, you just have to vote yes.
It's really great. Anyway, thank you.
Not the time to hit them up with.
I know. Well, it's getting to the holidays. We can be a little loose here. I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
I do have-
You, Mr. Dutton.
Just a couple other items, just to let the board know, I attended the Yarmouth Select Board meeting last night to talk about transfer of the burn, we don't call it the burn building, we call it the fire training facility that FEMA funds and other funds had built in Yarmouth. So that will be coming authority for me to negotiate that transfer, or there's really not much to negotiate. It's all spelled out, but to execute the transfer documents will come to one of your January meetings.
So it's almost Yarmouth.
It's almost.
I had to abstain from the
Right.
whole discussion, so I missed the thrilling presentation and discussion.
Okay.
But I should point out that our team was there. What time did you come on the agenda? At 11 o'clock?
It was supposed to be 8:30.
Yeah. Yarmouth does a really notoriously bad job of having agendas. We don't stick to anything. We load it up with way too much stuff. And, but I'm fine. I don't have a problem staying till 11 o'clock. I'm fine with it. But what it does is it gives mixed signals, because I think Mike and the team were on at like 8:30 and supposedly, and that didn't show up until 2 hours
Yeah.
later.
I'm glad to hear you're on board with that, Mark.
I know.
On board with what?
With the transfer.
Putting, a disciplined agenda,
yes.
making sure that everything's done on
Everybody.
time.
Well, I generally like to keep it on time. The problem is that some people don't like the times that I put on. Right, so I can have a long agenda, but at least I'm generally pretty good at picking the right time.
Yeah, and I do try to, I mean,
No one's
on the
complaining.
board,
I'm not complaining about you.
No, I know. I try to put people that are gonna, if something like this, or if we have an appointment or whatever, even last night, we had people sitting there and finally I looked at Tom and he said, yeah, let's take these people so they can leave and not have to listen to, although we do try to be as
When I
entertaining
run
as
an agenda,
possible.
I definitely follow Commissioner,
Yeah,
Lyons'
try to get those
approach,
people
right.
in and out.
Someone's
It's
there,
not,
particularly if they're a business and they hire an
Right.
attorney, and
right,
they have to pay through the nose
Yes.
by the hour.
Yes.
Come on.
yes,
You know,
exactly.
Let's stick to the time
I
frame.
think
We
we
went
should
to 10
invest,
o'clock
invest
last
in a
night.
gavel. I think that's what we need.
Right.
Take care of it.
Yeah, well, we did in Wellfleet. So anyway,
So you want me to gavel the meeting? Is that what you want?
well, only if there's disruptive
You ready for
people.
that?
We're taking all this time away from Michael. Michael, continue, please.
All right. Just to let the board know, I convened a composting meeting with the 4 towns and went well. There's universal buy-in, including Joint Base Cape Cod. So we will proceed to the next step, which is executing a intergovernmental agreement with the 5 parties, the 4 towns and the Joint Base, on the next step of securing the property and permitting the facility. So that is in the works. And then I would just add Jeannie Morrison, congratulations on her time with the Human Rights Commission, and the great job that Leslie did, as well as Allison Carter,
Yes,
who was her assistant. They did an exceptional job with the Human Rights Day. So that is all I have for right now.
excellent. All right, so moving along here, I think we have one item. No, we have upcoming business. No, we already done that.
Executive session.
Executive session. So we are going into an executive session.
So are we gonna go over our agenda for our next meeting?
Yes, I can do that. I apologize. You have your next meeting, as a reminder, is your reorganization meeting, which is on the first business day of the new year, which will be January 2nd, which is a Friday. It'll be a virtual meeting, and I believe the time is 9 or 9:30. So we'll get you that information.
9:30.
And then, so just the reorg meeting, and I sent out some suggested goals for 2026 for the county and therefore for me. And if you have a chance to look at those,
So we'll go over those and discuss those.
we could discuss those. That's your choice. That's your choice. I don't want
I
to.
think it's an appropriate day to do so.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
And so that's what we have for the 2nd. Then coming up on January 14th, which is your next regular meeting, we have there's state senators coming in for a legislative update. And we've got Paul Rizala talking a little bit about the performance and test results from the PRBs, the carbon curtain that we put up around the fire training facility, former municipal fire.
the
Iron wall. So, and then on the 28th, we've got our Falmouth visit to Falmouth Town
We have a
Hall.
late start on that one, don't we?
I believe we have a late start. I think it's 11, but again, Robin will
Keep us straight.
Robin,
keep us all
do that.
on the straight and
Yeah, but I
narrow.
just want to flag that for people, that it will be a late start to give people ample time to
To get
navigate
one.
all the wastewater construction on the road.
Yes. And
Even if
we'll
you're coming from Wellfleet.
Mhm.
also have, we're scheduled to have a budget presentation on that date as well. So, and I'm sure we'll have updates that are more particular. Yeah,
That's January 28th.
that is July. Sorry, I wish it was July, January 28th.
I have one little thing that should be put on a future agenda if we have the information. There seems to be some uncertainty as we continue funding for the SHINE program, which comes from the federal government down to the state. And I talked to Joe Pacheco, and he said he didn't know, but yeah, there's some noise about that. The figure that we get from the state and federal government, it's not a big number. So like we had the debate with the AmeriCorps, if indeed it does, I mean, that's a valuable program.
Exactly right.
It's respected across the Cape, so we should, and in putting together the budget for the next fiscal year, we should try to get that information. Expect the best. Yeah, those, I'm not anticipating the worst, but we got to do that.
Well, one of the good things we have is that we've got, at the State House, we've got legislators that are earmarking extra funds to us to cover any potential shortfalls. So
Be good to know.
I think that's, well, I think we just accepted that grant. Was it at our last meeting or the meeting before? So that was terrific. And but I think it's real wise to be concerned about what's happening at the federal level. This, you know, they haven't done the budget. It's another continuing resolution. But once they nail down the budget and get it done, yeah, I think there's going to be a whole range of programs that we're going to want to take a look at. And because I find it hard to believe that there won't be some impact here in a variety of areas. And which, what's good is that our department heads and our administration are very much on top of what's going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure, you know, once the budget finally gets taken care of, we'll get a pretty quick report on where all the impacts are and what, if anything, we might need to do to address them. But you're right, China's an incredibly important one.
Yes, and you know, I would like to, I know that we have our department heads coming in and, you know, really give some time to Joe of the Human Services Department. Number one, I mean, it was even mentioned today that there's like $5 million that he brings in a year. I mean, he really, it has a huge
Well, we talked
portfolio
to-
of money that he
yeah.
brings in.
Well, we talked
And-
about that during the budget.
and
We
also-
make sure that we identify those funds.
Right, and I think that the HUD funds may be, you know, as always, an issue. So it would be nice to know that as well, of where those HUD funds stand and, because, you know, and he would be able to give us some update on what is the homeless situation here? What are we doing about that?
They usually do a Christmas count or a.
Yes,
New
it will
Year's
be,
count,
yeah,
so
and New Year's,
that's
Christmas count,
mentioned.
so that will give us an idea of what we're not focusing on.
Well, what I'm going to suggest is that we, as soon as the budget is done, we'll look to the administrator to give us an update in terms of how the budget impacts us,
Yeah.
positively and negatively.
You're talking about the overall
Yeah,
federal
I'm
and
talking
state
about the federal
budgets.
budget. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna be going into an executive session. And so executive session, so a discussion pursuant to general law, chapter 30A, subsection 21, A7, to comply with and act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, approval and or release of executive session minutes pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, subsection 22, F. Executive session meeting review, approval, and release of executive session meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
So we
You
will
have to
be
do
adjourning
roll call
here,
Roll call vote.
Roll call Forrest, aye.
first from both sides.
and Lyons votes aye. So we are going to be adjourning from our regular meeting, going into executive session, not to return to our regular meeting. So with this, we call for the adjournment of our regular meeting. Thank you. And that is at 11:42. We adjourn regular meeting.